Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Think Big Bodybuilding Media. I'm Scott McNally, and today we are going to speak with IFBB Pro Aaron Clark of the 212 division. A few years ago, Aaron Clark was on fire. He turned pro in 2012. I believe he was 23 years old. By 2 years later, he took first place at the New York Pro. He took third at the Arnold Classic. That was just behind Dave Henry and Flex Lewis. He beat guys like Hidetaka Yamagishi and Dave Henry. I mean, he was in really good company at that show, and he stood his own. The guy was on fire. Now, from there, things kind of declined, and by 2018, after a poor showing at the New York Pro, he disappeared off bodybuilding radar. Well, he's back. He just showed back up at the Tampa Pro, and he's like the Aaron Clark of old. So we're going to catch up with him today. We're going to talk about where he's been. We're going to talk about what he's been up to. And guys, I hope you enjoyed this program. If you do me a favor, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do, because we have several programs coming out each week. All right, guys, let's get to Aaron Clark. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Think Big Bodybuilding Media. I'm Scott McNally, and with me today, it's my great pleasure to have with me 212 competitor Aaron Clark, man. What's up, brother? How you doing?
How you doing, brother? Doing good.
Right on, man. Good. Great to have you here, and great to see you back. You just, I think you surprised a lot of people at the Tampa. That was a fantastic showing.
Yeah, man, that was the plan. I mean, I went into that show just, my goal was I got to be in that top group. I got to come back and make a splash. No one competes for fourth place, but at the same time, I did what I came to do. So I'm happy with it, all said and done, and I'm very happy that the show didn't get canceled or anything. We were able to just see it through and get it done.
Man.
Yeah,
hell yeah, yeah. I feel like it was a fantastic reintroduction. I'm really excited to see what you do next. I feel like, we saw some improvements. You brought all the muscle I think you could possibly freaking carry. Now, what did you weigh in at when you guys actually did your weigh-ins?
Well, on my scale, 212. On their scale, I think it was 208.5.
Okay.
Every time I've been there, it's always a few, maybe 3 or 4 pound difference. I think they don't want to tell anyone, no, I'm sorry, you can't compete. I was probably, if I had to guess, 215 or under, but over 212, competing.
Right on,
would be what I would guess. Yeah.
Right on. It's funny because we talked a little bit before the show, and bodybuilding is such a revolving door that like I see every time I'm at the Arnold Expo or the Olympia Expo, whatever, you go to a show, there's this whole new crop of kids there. I say kids respectfully, the younger people involved in the sport now. But I'm looking at your competitive history, man. Some of these guys might not have even been watching bodybuilding just a few years ago. In 2014, for instance, you were freaking killing it, man. You were destroying it that time. Just to go back through, we're talking first place at the New York Pro. We're talking third place at the Arnold Classic. You were top 6 finisher at the Olympia in 2014. I mean, you were one of the best, no question.
That was a good year.
Yeah,
that was a good year. Yeah. It was my best year. Because I was real excited to get that Arnold invite.
Yeah,
I remember, super stoked about that, and I think I got 4th on my first pro show.
Okay.
Everything comes full circle, right? I think it was New York, 2013. Came back next year. That was a killer year. And then I had a lot of changes. 2015 was just okay.
Okay.
And then kind of disappeared for a while.
Yeah. And to think, though, I mean, as it stands, you have quite a history with a lot of the really great 212 competitors that are even now retiring. Guys you've been up there with guys like Jose Raymond.
For sure.
At the same time, you're young. You were 31?
I'm 31. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're still a kid in the sport. You got a long time
crazy
to go.
I don't think of myself as young, but even at Tampa, asking how old everyone is, the youngest guys are 31, 30.
Yeah.
it's rare. I mean, I turned pro when I was 23.
Okay.
So I kind of got a head start,
Yeah.
I guess, on that. But
Hell yeah, man.
yeah.
So, just checking out some of your history too and everything. I didn't realize you did your own diets for a long time, even at the USA when you turned pro.
Yeah, if you want to call it a diet.
What do you mean?
I mean, I've always been a naturally lean person.
Okay.
And I didn't blow up real huge off season.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of diet, progressively to the show and kind of figure it out. I was definitely winging it. I didn't have it written down, X amount of this, X amount of that.
Yeah.
It was just on the fly. And I think that you can get to a certain point, especially when you're younger, like I said, 23, you can kind of fly by the seat of your pants like that.
Yeah.
But I knew coming back, like, I can't do that again.
Okay.
Especially just kind of trying to, like, bring yourself back. I knew physically and mentally that I wasn't going to be able to do that again. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
Tell me, what was I can only imagine what the almost like the pressure would be like, the expectations almost that you would have for yourself. Because, I mean, when you dieted in to say, USA's and you did that on your own, you could take it by the seat of your pants and it's like, well, I'm just doing my thing. Now it's like, now people know who you are. You've been a very successful pro bodybuilder. And what was it like thinking, okay, I'm going to put it all on the line now and come back? What was your mindset with that?
Well, I think, bodybuilding's been a big part of my life. And I left it at a very negative chapter. And I think that, you have two choices. You can either sit with that or you can, go revisit and make it better. Like, you have two options.
Okay.
You're either okay with that or you're not, and you're going to come back and make it right in a sense.
Yeah.
And that was very important to me. I mean, my wife is the one who was really like, Aaron, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
If you're going to do it, like, because I was always bodybuilding, I always train, I was this, and it's kind of like, look, you're spending this time, like, are you going to do it or are you not?
Yeah.
Stop saying that you're going to do it, but you didn't hire a coach.
You
didn't, and it's like I'm giving myself an out,
Okay.
So
yeah.
I hired Johnny, the coach I used, and I locked in. Like, I was locked into doing it at this point.
Okay. Okay.
No excuses like, oh, I just couldn't get it together. No, I mean, I have someone helping me. Everything is set.
Yeah.
So I locked myself into it to do it. And I think then, you just follow it. You do everything you can. I know inside that I have been a top competitor.
Yeah.
So I know that if I make myself follow everything to a T, then why shouldn't I not at least be close, right?
Absolutely.
And in your head, like, it's really hard to believe. I mean, all through it is a mental battle thinking, like, the last taste of bodybuilding that I had was very negative and embarrassing, and you feel like when you take a bite, that's what you're going to get a mouthful of again, like that's kind of what your mind is telling you, but, that's not reality. That happened for a reason. And if you do all the right things, you leave no stone unturned, then, you're setting yourself up to do better, to do,
Yeah.
I want to say to win, but,
So talk to us a little bit about that then, about the bad taste that bodybuilding had, left for you because we haven't really gotten to that yet. Why did you stop? What happened?
I mean, I think after, we talked about 2014 was a great year. It was a great year. 2015 was pretty good, but things started to go downhill. I think a lot of changes in my life happened, and obviously I'm a man, I'm an adult, and nothing that I took on or happened to me, that's all my own responsibility, but I did start, I hanging out with different people, different habits, different things become okay. When I moved to Florida, South Florida, that's where I really started to go down.
Okay.
I was all alone, no family, no friends really, except for the friends that I made there. And like, there's nothing against them. They were good to me.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm just saying from my own personal standpoint, that's when we started to go down. And I think, as I was kind of floundering, like what's going on, I thought maybe I just need to go into the open class. And that's when at the end of 2015, I said, guys, I'm going to the open class.
Okay.
And, you know, in hindsight, that was a mistake.
Okay.
But it also gave me kind of this weird excuse to go away for a while.
Oh.
'Cause, you know, when are you ever really ready to come back, you know?
Yeah. You could always use like that, just a little more, you know?
And, yeah. So I think, you know, early next year I was over 250 already.
Wow.
Which is big for me.
Yeah.
But I think in all of that, you know, that hurt my waistline and a lot of things in general.
Yeah.
But that lasted, you know, years. I was 15, so to 18, and then to now.
Yeah.
It's been, you know, half a decade. So
how did you turn that around then? Because I mean, I feel like everything you're talking about, it you know, it's a downward spiral that a lot of us can get caught into. You know, it sounds like you were young, you know, you had moved basically away from a lot of probably your foundations and stuff, you know, and like you said, man, you weren't like really being super accountable for yourself, maybe, you know, and things slipped.
I think, you know, bodybuilding is an extreme, you can call it a sport, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, you can start justifying a lot of things if you're not careful.
Sure.
You know, and you really need to have clear lines. You know, this is okay and this is not. Yeah. Because, you know, the further you get into it, you know, well, I took this for this. Why shouldn't I take this for that? And then it just goes, you know, you can take that to the moon and back, you know.
Yeah.
And I think, eventually for myself, clearly, I just, you know, my standards and what's up, what's down, what's, you know, you get totally, and eventually you got to just, I mean, you should be able to sit down and just, you know, you got to push everything away.
Yeah.
And then reevaluate, because you have so many, you've just collected all of these things, most of them negative, that are going to just weigh you down. You know, I mean, if I hadn't done that, I'd never come back and compete again, for sure.
That's got to be hard to look at yourself. I mean, well, when I say that, man, I'm leading you, but I know in my own life, I can totally relate to what you're talking about. And I can tell you in my own life, it was hard to look at myself and be honest that, that I, you know, I made a lot of mistakes, basically, is what it 100%. Came down to.
It's brutal. It's one of the hardest things to do, you know?
The difference with me, when I made those decisions, I had to face the people that I worked with, my friends, my family. You had to also face the entire world of bodybuilding, which is a different level of pressure.
Yeah, I think, like if we're talking about 2018 and stuff, I think after that, I mean, any disillusion you have about, you know, who you are and what you're projecting, you get a clear picture after that. You know, like, oh, wow, like this, it's that bad. Like, you know, everyone sees this.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I obviously got the message, but I also just tried to not read things, you know, because there are times where, you know, people who I would have said, oh, they're one of my best friends. I mean, they were just, you know, tearing me apart in front of everyone, you know, on Facebook groups and bodybuilding message boards. It's, you know, you find out who's your friend, who's not, you know, who really, but at the end of the day, you know, it is what it is. Just to, losing my thoughts here, to, you know, it is a process to just come back and make it right.
Yeah. That's what I mean though. That's the hard part. So, you know, you mentioned 2018, things didn't go great for you at the New York Pro. It wasn't a good look. You've mentioned, you know, a lot of personal issues around that time. and it would be easy to like just disappear from bodybuilding and never show your face again type thing. That's what I'm thinking.
Sure.
Like, and that's what I mean by like actually facing those people, like that's a lot more pressure, man, for you to turn around and be like, hey, listen, I'm actually going to try again now in 2020, 2 years later, you know, I commend you on that, I guess is what I'm saying. Cause it's a whole other level for somebody who's in the public eye versus someone like me, who's just an average everyday guy, you know, it's a lot, man.
It's hard no matter who you are, because, you know, people, depends on how much weight you put on certain people's opinions and such, things like that. But I think it boils down to what's it worth, you know, like, because of course, like I had a lot of feelings like I'm going to just run away from this at this point. Like, we'll just keep that door shut. Yeah. And I'll just keep training and doing, you know, my life. Yeah. But I think, are you okay with that? You know, like, people always are going to remember that, you know, your last thing you did. Yeah. You know, no matter how good you were, no matter what you did before then, whatever, they're going to remember the worst thing. Yeah. And the last thing. Yeah. And at the end of the day, like, it's not for them. It's not for anyone else. But it's for me, knowing that that's the person that I've painted this mural of myself, and that's what I painted. You know, this picture, and that's not what I want. And it's you know, it eats at you. Like, you don't want that to be the case. So whatever it takes to come back and, you know, erase that, and whatever you can do to rewrite that, I think is important. So you must feel so good now, man. I mean, it feels good to come back and to feel like, you know, and as nasty as, you know, people can be, and I don't blame, like, people see what they see, you know? Yeah. And people interpret it how they don't really know me. They don't really know, you know how it goes on the internet. But, you know, as negative as people have been, when I did the show, like, everyone was real positive, you know? If I look at my comments, you know, it's glad to see me back, you know, so glad to see you, you know, back on the right track, etc. You know, it feels good to know that all you did was just come back and you did it. Hell yeah, literally, man. You just came back and your actions showed them that, you know? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So. Yeah, that's really cool, man. Hey, what's going on, guys? Scott McNally here. I'm going to jump in with a quick break, and then we will get right back to the show. By the way, guys, if you're listening to this on iTunes, do me a favor and leave us a 5-star review. All that stuff will help to boost us up so that other people can find our programming. All right, guys, we're going to take just a brief pause to shout out TrueNutrition.com. I've been using them for years now, years long before they sponsored our programming, and so has Skip, and so has Scott Stevenson, and so has Dusty Hanshaw. In fact, those guys knew the owner, Dante Trudell, for years now, since back before he even had True Nutrition. He's the creator of DC Training, which we talk about all the time, and he's also the creator of True Nutrition. He developed this company so that he could offer bodybuilders high-quality supplements with no flashy marketing, no gimmicks, none of the stuff that would boost the pricing up. This way he could sell products for next to wholesale pricing and make sure that he kept them as high quality as possible. I back everything sold by TrueNutrition.com. You can get everything you need, from all your protein powders to plant-based protein powders to whole food vitamins and fish oil to performance supplements like your NO products like citrulline, malate, and beta-alanine. Anything you could possibly think of, you can get there at True Nutrition. And if you use our code ADVICES, that will let them know that you support our programming, and in turn, they'll continue to support what we are doing. So once again, that's TrueNutrition.com, and our code ADVICES supports our podcasts, plus it'll get you a discount. I also want to shout out GetAzoth.com. That's AZOTH. Azoth is on the cutting edge of brain supplements, increasing focus and attention, live in the zone, cognition and memory to process faster and think deeper, improves mood, controls stress, plus energy and motivation, start strong and finish stronger. Whatever you're investing your time in, the idea of nootropics is to get more out of it, to get more accomplished, and to be more effective at what you're doing.
I use nootropics to help boost my cognitive abilities while I'm podcasting, adjusting diets, and dialing people in on their contest preps. Azoth 2.0 is great for performance enhancement at my desk, but it's also great for performance enhancement in the gym. Check them out. You can go to getazoth.com. You can go to the Amazon link. Both of those are in our show notes. And we also have a code. Advices10 will get you 10% off at either of those sites. That's AZOTH. Thank you guys for listening to our ads. Thank you for supporting us by shopping with our sponsors and using our codes. And if you have any questions, reach out to me at Scott McNally1 on Instagram or hit me up at the Advices Radio group on Facebook. So tell me about the prep then. You know, you decided you're going to come back, and then we decided that we all decided together collectively to have a pandemic, which, you know, that was great timing. How did your training go through all of that?
Well, oddly enough for me, it worked out in a oddly positive way because normally I'm training people from, you know, early in the morning till late at night.
Okay.
That's what I had been doing. And the gym closed. So, you know, I can't train them there anymore.
Yeah.
And so I still have access to the gym now.
Yes.
Just me.
Okay.
And so I'm sitting on my ass like, you know, what am I going to do right now?
Yeah.
And it ended up being a perfect time to just prep for the show. Obviously, that would all been in vain if everything got canceled at the end. But I didn't entertain that thought because you can't do that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's all sucked. But if I'm being honest, it worked to my advantage, I would say.
Yeah. I could see that, man. Give you a chance to kind of clear everything out, focus on what you needed to do. When you started that, did you start it with the idea of doing a show, or did you just get into a good rhythm? How did the initial sparks occur?
How do you mean started it?
Like did you say like, okay, I'm gonna start prepping for a show from day one, or were you like, hey, I'm really getting into a groove here, maybe I could put something together?
What I'm asking is, are you talking about like cleaning up my life?
Oh, I mean, just this prep. Just the prep itself. Okay. Yeah.
So, I linked up with Johnny, who's the guy I worked with for the show, Castellana.
Yeah.
I was planning to do a show.
Okay.
And I think he was like, how about Tampa? It's in 15 weeks, something like that.
Yeah.
So, you know, Dynamic is in Chicago.
Okay.
So in my mind, I thought I would do Chicago.
That's your sponsor, right?
Yeah. Dynamic Evolution. And so, I was like, okay, we'll do Tampa.
Yeah.
And worked out, you know?
Hell yeah, man.
So I'm glad, like, you know, all these shows are getting postponed and moved, and that sucks. I mean, especially postponed.
Yeah.
You know, you've made this timeline out, and then it gets moved on you. That's rough.
No kidding. Yeah.
Good.
That definitely, it worked out. We won't know how the rest of the shows work out. Fingers crossed. But now that you've got this one under your belt, I already know because I asked you on DM earlier. But tell the audience what's your plans here? Because my first question was, what are you going to do next?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a part of me that says, okay, I think I have 6 points now. 6, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So I could do one more show and do the O, but I really only got a couple choices, and those might get moved or canceled.
Yeah.
And so right now, I'm really happy with how things worked out for this, you know, for Tampa, and kind of coming back on the scene.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's probably a better idea to just leave it for now.
Yeah.
You know,
okay.
And to just, you know, stay tight and work on the waist a little more, and you know, keep training, and then try and come back early in the year, maybe when things are more settled.
Yeah.
And
what does that mean? Working on the waist? Because I think that's something that it's kind of a newer idea. I feel like, especially like back just a few years ago, working on your waist was not a thing that we did, you know, in 2014. And especially like there were some really just thick 212 guys the look has kind of shifted a little. I think that you're fitting in well. You're super well. You were probably the most heavily muscled dude on that 212 stage. Obviously, if you could bring your waist in a little, that could only benefit you.
Yeah.
What does that take? How do you do that?
Well, there's a few factors. I think number one is diet. And I think because I'm naturally really lean, a lot of times, especially in the off season, I just ate what I wanted.
Yeah.
And it caused a lot of inflammation in the, your digestive tract. Of course, it's okay to do every now and then, but over a period of time, it has a negative implication. I think that also when I try to get super huge, over 250, just forcing massive amounts of food, it's not good, especially if you're a shorter guy, with a certain type of build. I never had a small waist.
Okay.
Like the thing now, it's like if a guy doesn't have a vacuum, then people would say he has Palumboism.
Right.
So and that's extreme. But obviously, your transverse abdominis muscles are what you can pull your stomach in. And I think, I just need to keep training those, just keep training the midsection. And I think staying, I don't want to say smaller, but just tighter.
Yeah.
And not like blowing up real big. It will certainly help. Because there is a massive difference just from the beginning to the end of the prep.
Okay.
And of my waist. I don't really know why, but I assume that it's only eating really certain foods and, making sure that you train, your abdominal muscles certain ways. And, I have a waist trainer, one of those things you squeeze it real tight.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm not 100% sure how much that works or not.
Yeah.
I mean, I did it while I did some of my cardio, but I did more cardio too.
Okay.
Than I used to in the past. I used to not really do any. I would train for a long time, like 2+ hours, but the cardio that I did was not, for this show I was doing, HIIT post workout and then also steady state at night usually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like you really tried to push it then in this prep. Like you guys really drove. Shout out to Johnny Castellana. I started following him not too long ago when I saw he was working with you. You guys did an incredible job, man. You really did together.
He pushed me really hard. And, I think the interesting thing is because I have prepped myself before, parts of this prep, I would have never pushed myself that hard.
Ah, okay.
Like, mentally, I can push myself very hard, but I just never would have really done that to myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just a mental, and I think some of that could be, burning some of the visceral fat that maybe you've, collected over time. You've got to really, diet till you're shredded and then keep dieting.
Yes.
Just to starve it out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's hard to get rid of. So I think that's part of it. Keep doing the cardio when you're in a huge deficit. And those are things that I didn't really have to do before.
Okay.
In the past.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense, man. So, overall, like I said, you were probably the most muscled guy in the 212. Outside of continuing to work on shape with your waist, is there anything else that you would want to improve?
I'm a bodybuilder, so the answer is always yes.
Right.
I think that I always want better legs.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think so that right now I have to take away from the middle and push it out to the limbs and so we'll see what I can do.
Right on, man.
The thing is I used to weigh in when I was younger, right about at the top.
Okay.
Right about 210, 211. And everyone was like, wow, you got so much bigger.
Huh.
And I didn't get any bigger. Like, I weigh the same. So I think that in your head, as a 212 guy, you're like, oh, I can't get any better because I am limited by this weight limit.
Huh.
but that's not always the case.
Huh.
I think that, just time and, I don't really know the answer, but I think that over time, like, you do get better.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree with that too. And I don't know if you have to have the answer. I think part of bodybuilding is like just, and I know it sounds cheesy, but the journey, discovering that for yourself as you go, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of blanks that really don't have an answer. And that's it's different for everyone too. So
let me ask you one more thing, and this is going to be more of a general question for everybody who's listening, who's thinking to themselves like, man, I want to be as jacked as Aaron Clark one day. Talk to me just a little bit, some tips on trying to grow the most amount of muscle possible. We've been talking a lot about progressive overload on the channel lately. And in the past, I used to subscribe to a lot of volume. Progressive overload, I'm finding, is working really well for me. And I've been doing a lot less sets, going a lot more intense with the sets that I do. Can you talk to me about, obviously your training's probably a little different now than what it took to get where you are, but what would be some of the advice you'd give to some of the younger guys out there that are trying to put on your quality of muscle?
I always trained really heavy.
Okay.
And I also did a lot of volume. I think I would always been I would never have, let's say, taken someone under my wing and told them to do exactly what I did. Okay. In the back of my head, I knew it was too much, but just sick. I think as I've gotten older though, and I think progressive overload clearly works. Like, and the science behind it clearly shows, like, you want a muscle to be bigger and denser, then it has to be able to lift more weight, or, lifting more weight with a muscle, it will cause it to adapt clearly. Okay. You make it lift more weight, you feed it, it rests, it grows. Like, simple. Yeah. And I think that everyone needs to have phases in their training that are like that, at least.
Okay.
Maybe, I won't say everyone, but I think that you could benefit from a progressive overload, at least phases.
Okay. What do you mean by phases?
Well, like, let's say you do a few months like that, and then a few months, you maybe increase the sets and you go a little lighter.
Okay.
And you give the tendons a break.
Yeah.
Because unless you're really dedicated with doing a deload every few weeks. Yeah. Because the problem is, like, for myself, I hate to do a deload, and I think that I don't need it, but everyone needs it. Like, that's how, the strongest guys deload. Yeah. And so, progressive overload is fantastic, but you're also, because you're overloading and you're adding more of a load, you're much more apt to get hurt and much more apt to, overblow the CNS like that. So I think you're either going to do it in phases, or you're going to be real good about doing that deload. Okay. Every few weeks.
Cool. I just figured it was kind of a personal, selfish question, because I wanted to know, but I figured too the audience wanted to know some of your thoughts there as well.
I've done the giant sets too, the Milos thing.
Oh yeah.
I've got mixed feelings on that, but I think that, again, that it's good for phases. If you did 1 or 2 months of giant sets and then went back to progressive overload. Yeah. It's challenging the muscles in a different way. Yeah. You're not probably going to, tear a quad. You'll get painful pumps and you'll be out of breath, and, it's just different. Yeah. It's different.
Cool, man. So. Cool. Well, I really appreciate your time here. I'm really grateful to have you on, and dude, as a fan of the sport, I got so much satisfaction seeing you come back and seeing how you looked up there. I wasn't at the show. I watched the live feed, but it was like, as a fan, man, I was just like, fuck yeah, when I saw you come out. That was cool.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Dude, I saw you post a lot of videos and stuff over at your Instagram. Is there anywhere else that people should follow along? Are you doing anything like YouTube, anything like that?
Well, that's in the works. I haven't really been on YouTube much. Okay. But if you follow me on Instagram, then you'll see anything I start putting more energy into. Hell yeah. It'll be, you won't miss anything if you follow me there. So.
All right, guys. Well, do us all a favor. Check out Aaron, because he's a freaking fantastic bodybuilder. Aaron Clark here, 212. I've got his all of his contact and stuff down in the show notes, so you can follow him along. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate your time, brother.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on here. definitely.